Hi everyone, I hope you're well. It's the 3rd of April 2025. This is the second time I'm doing these videos for this document. Thank you very much for letting me know. Some of you said there was no sound. That's because I had the setting wrong. So I'll have to do it again. Never mind. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, and since 2022 I've acquired irrefutable, verifiable and corroborative evidence of decades-long international government fraud where our international governments have been involved in the forgery of company registration systems and the incorporation documents to create criminal fraudulent entity companies. It's linked to the taxation system and other financial institutions, which means they're able to defraud trillions of pounds from billions of people over the last few decades. But it also enables and facilitates the most awful crimes against humanity, and in particular against children, the most innocent of all. Now, I've screenshot the evidence from the Companies House records and other internet resources. Please verify and corroborate the information. I've just pasted it into a document that you can see it easier, and you can then refer to this as a template, and this document is going to be circulated as far and wide as I can. Now, I'd already found connections to the Church of Satan. We're going to look at that a little bit later, where two key companies in this international government fraud were set up either side of the Church of Satan. And now we're going to look at the Satanic Temple United Kingdom Limited and see where that leads. And on the left here, I've just searched in Google Church of Satan Companies House in Google, and it brings up the Satanic Temple United Kingdom. This was a company that was based in Hampshire. Now, this is particularly important already because I was removed as a director from a company called Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited for refusing to file forged bank documents. The person that initiated that removal was Deborah Fleming. Deborah Fleming was an NHS chief executive in charge of a £700 million budget and 10,000 staff in the area of Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. That's in her own words. She's married to a guy called John Fleming, who's a Scottish person who I believe is a Scottish high-level Freemason. And they then link to the Fleming family. Ian Fleming wrote the James Bond books, which led to the movies. They're linked to the military and also through to JP Morgan and international banking fraud and overwhelming evidence now of child trafficking, linking to Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, etc. They're also linked to the international energy industry via Tesla and JP Morgan, and also the pharmaceutical industry via Alexander Fleming, etc., who supposedly was involved in the creation of the penicillin. So we already have a very quick connection. You can see here it was incorporated in 2023. That was before I had made the satanic connection, okay, to all of this. I started making inquiries within my company in early 2022. And you can see as I've continued the exposure, they've dissolved the company on the 2nd of July 2024. That was around the time, I believe, that I was identifying the blood connected to being taken from poor innocent children during their torture in relation to all of this. And of course, we're looking at satanic cults. Moving forward on the left here, Tiffany Williams is the only director shown within that company. Okay. However, when you search that name separately on the right here within Companies House, it brings up multiple Tiffany Williams. Now, some of you will say, yeah, but that's just a coincidence, different date of birth. But at least two of the records go very quickly back to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, the company I was removed from. And the first one we're going to look at, you can see the one I've boxed here is born in 1983? Okay. The one below that you can see is born in 1971. That links into Exbourne Manor very quickly. And 1971 is a very important year because it's when the World Economic Forum was started. And we'll come to that a little bit later as we go through. So that director links to Bat Williams Holdings LLP on the left. And you can see we've clicked on the company on the right there. And you can see it dissolved in March 2022. And this is 4 months before a key person in Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, Anthony Roberts, 4 months to the day, in fact, when 4 months prior to me approaching Anthony Roberts at his home address at Exbourne Manor, wanting to look at the documents for our company and him subsequently resigning. And it was incorporated in September 2012. Well, that in itself is becoming probably very relevant because 2012 is when the supposed Higgs boson or God particle was created. I think it was in July 2012. And that was created by CERN, the Hadron Collider. And when you research CERN, CERN Limited goes back very quickly to Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. Around the time, in fact 2 days before I approached Anthony Roberts to speak about the bank accounts on the 6th of July 2022, the Georgia Guidestones in America were damaged and subsequently removed. Those Georgia Guidestones, go and research them, supposedly represented the American version of Stonehenge, and they were in relation to a potential apocalyptic man-made event, specifically nuclear war. When you research the creator of those stones, called Robert Christian, I believe it was the pseudonym of, it links to potential satanic elements and Christianity, and it goes back to Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. And whilst we're on the subject, this is my private email address inbox, and I had an email to yesterday, actually, because we've gone past midnight now, 6 minutes past midnight. Robert Christiansen. How interesting is that? The same name. I've also been having emails from Elite Properties. Of course, the Elite tie into all this international government fraud. Back to the document. Within that BAT company, you can see Ben Williams links to Eco Warriors Renewable Energy UK. Within that company on the left, we have Gordon Rautenbach. Sounds German. It says they're English. And then they link to DARASP or DARASP. It's probably an acronym for something on the right there. Now, before any of you says, well, yeah, but they're not right next to each other. You've got to remember there's over 5 million registered companies. 5 million registered companies. And from all angles, you hit the same companies, whatever area of research, whether it be the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, whether it be Jeffrey Epstein, whether it be the murders on Jersey of children, whether you come in from Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, Donald Trump, you hit the same companies very, very quickly throughout all of this. So looking into this company, here's DARASP LLP, and they're in liquidation, which means they're going to be closing down according to this, even though they were created in 2004. So this is what's happening. As I'm exposing the evidence publicly, they're dissolving companies left, right and centre, and we're going to look at a few specific key important ones later on that. On the incorporation document for that company, and you can verify this, okay, just go and look at the filing history of the company, and you can see an address of Jersey. Now, we've already mentioned child abuse and murder. Well, in Jersey in 2007, I believe, or 2008, there was, according to the Hope de la Grande research, you can see that it appears many children were murdered at a care home. That ties into evidence of politicians, and the research that I've done around the investigating police officers link back into the international government fraud via Companies House and to Keir Starmer, to Madeleine McCann, to blockchain technology and very other important key stuff very, very quickly with the same fraudulent entity companies right the way throughout. And we're going to come to Keir Starmer later. Further down on this document, you can see a company, I can't zoom right in, Pi Dharma Limited, P-I-E, Pi Dharma Limited, okay? Now, Pi Dharma, when you research it, has a couple of articles on it in relation to potential tax avoidance, and it says at the bottom there, losses of 43.5 million denied in tax avoidance case. That's from 12th of October 2018. Within that company, Peter Hargreaves on the left links to various companies that appear to relate to directed energy. Now, there's overwhelming evidence to suggest that there is a threat to humanity posed by directed energy. And what I mean by that is an electromagnetic radiation or frequency emitting devices such as cell towers, smart meters, mobile phones, other devices, because it's electromagnetic radiation according to the research. So similar, if not worse, to a microwave technology, but they could increase it by increasing the power through there and therefore increase the damage to any biological life, including humans, of course. You imagine putting your hand in a microwave and cooking it. Okay, we all know what it does to food. No level of electromagnetic radiation or frequency is safe for biological material. So I suspect they've been using this for a very long time, and as the technology has increased, it's going to become more efficient to limit human life if not remove life completely, potentially. So we have surf beam future bandwidth. Okay, bandwidth relates to internet. Okay, and obviously what we've got at the moment is wireless internet through the Mars. Another company, Wide Area Network Solutions. And we've got Beam Carrier Trading Limited. And within that company, on the incorporation document, we have Jordan's Limited. Now, Jordan's Limited was one of the companies that started Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, the company that I was removed from. It's a criminal, fraudulent entity company, and I'm going to show you why. And its creation is relevant to the Satanic Church as well. So it's now trading as Vistra Limited on the left. And you can see there's the previous name, Jordan's Limited there, the second name up. So you'll see below that it says Jordan's and Sons Limited. According to the government, Companies House, which is a government organisation, it was first called Jordan's and Sons and had no other name from November 1965 until June 1996. Well, first of all, that name change is 5 years before the World Trade Center disaster. It then changed its name from Jordan's Limited above, okay, in 2019. That's the year of the outbreak. That's no coincidence. The outbreak and the interventions we've been forced to have, or made to feel we've got to have, are all related to this satanic attack on humanity. And that becomes very relevant. So this claims Jordan's and Son was its a name from 1965. Well, that's a lie, because on the incorporation document it has Hammerplag Limited. You can see it here. And further down, just to confirm, on the document, you can see the page numbers for everything. On the bottom right here, you can see where I'm, so you know what pages to look on the, if you want to verify this, on the Companies House records. And you can see here the date, 16th of November, 1965. Okay, on the document. But they falsified the register, okay? Now, it'll be a few days after, of course, because you've got the signing of the document and then you've got it then putting it on the system. But they've lied. November 1965 to 17th of June 1996. They've lied and they've put Jordan's and Sons. That's a crime against their own legislation, 2006 Fraud Act, and also it would relate to the Theft Act 1948. Is it 48 years? So that's a criminal fraudulent entity company. And it was created, which we'll look at a bit later, 1965, 1 year before the foundation of the Church of Satan, which links to Germany. We're going to come to that later. So the same director, all we've done is gone back to that same director that that company was linked to, those apparent directed energy companies. And you have another company here, which I found very interesting, Pi Cubed LLP. Now, there's significant evidence coming to my attention of the satanic cube evidence in all of this. Now, what that suggests is that the main three, at least, faith groups have been infiltrated by the Church of Satan and actually infiltrated the cube into those faith groups. And with Christianity, the evidence is suggesting the cross, okay, if you fold it up, it makes a cube. Apparently, other faith groups also have a cube element in relation to their belief system. Now, this obviously throws up a lot of questions, and we're going to be looking at more evidence of this later, or potentially in another document, and how it relates to Saturn, the planet Saturn. So this is the evidence that I'm getting. And it's looking as though we've got a satanic infiltration and deception against the entire world to make people believe they're worshipping something else when they're actually worshipping Satan unknowingly. Okay, that's very controversial, and I'm going to come to the evidence on that a bit later. But here's Pi Cubed LLP, PI on there. And here's the company and the overview, and it dissolved in September 2023 as I'm reporting the fraud, as many are, and it was incorporated in 2004, so it had been around for a while. Now, on the incorporation documents, it's a fraudulent company because they've put it as the pi symbol. Okay, pi with the 3 LLP at the top. So it's criminal, fraudulent entity company because it doesn't match the register deliberately. They've forged the register when they've attached the document. Now, interestingly, bearing in mind we're talking about the temple, the Satanic temple, we have an address of 3 Temple Gardens Temple. Now, a lot of these addresses that are being used, they're either empty, there's no affiliation with the company, or no way, shall we say, of handing a litigation paper to, whether it be for civil or criminal activity that company's been involved in. This is deliberate by the government because there's no verification of addresses. There's no verification of names. Now, we all know everything else has to be verified if it's us. They want to make sure it's us. But they're allowing company registrations. And the only reason they would allow that is because they're part of it. And they are. You've got politicians, Prime Minister Donald Trump, he's part of this. Elon Musk, Joe Biden, Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, Lucinda Ardern from New Zealand. They've all jumped on it because they've all got the protection of the police and the intelligence agencies and the military all involved in it. Okay. Further down on the document, you can see they've actually referenced the pi symbol. Note the name in the Greek letter, okay, pi, followed by the mathematical symbol for cubed, i.e. a number 3 at supersite level. I've just looked up the word supersite because I didn't know what it means. The superpower of having remarkably accurate vision. Back to the document. Now remember pi, which could be P-I-E, the pi symbol. Now pi is very important in all of the evidence. We've just mentioned Rishi Sunak. Via the research from that and a few of the other angles I've come in at, you get PIE companies. Okay, pi. Remember, we're talking about international child trafficking tying into this irrefutably. Okay, this deliberately facilitates crimes against children. It appears to be incredibly important by the people in this system. So here on the left is an article. The Paedophile Information Exchange, PIE, was a product of the different time and culture, published on the 27th of February 2014, and it mentions the Liberty Fund companies, the Liberty Group, sorry. Okay, and it says, the Daily Mail has been exploring the relationship between the National Council for Civil Liberties, NCCL, now known as Liberty, and the Paedophile Information Exchange, PIE, in the 1970s. Remember, 1971 was when the World Economic Forum was created, and has embroiled Deputy Leader of the Labour Party and former NCCL legal officer Harriet Harman into a bitter war of words. Clearly and perhaps unsurprisingly, the exchange is much more about politics than history, and it has been characterised by piecemeal historical knowledge and shallow research. Now, this is really important because the National Council for Civil Liberties, okay, is under the Liberty banner, okay? They link via the research to Westco Nominees Limited, okay? So Companies Made Simple, which then goes into Westco Nominees. If you go to the World Trade Center disaster research, Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the building in July 2001. It's the only time in 31 years history that it ever changed hands. And as we know, the buildings collapsed in September that year. By chance, in his own words, he would happen to not be in the building when he would normally have breakfast there every day. After the disaster, Larry Silverstein received a US government grant from a Liberty Fund grant. Silverstein Real Estates also links to Westco Nominees via Companies Made Simple. And the Westco Nominees Limited Company, if you go and look at it on Companies House, they've removed the company name from the document that is signed. Very serious fraud and crime, I suspect, to remove the connection between the international child trafficking plan and securing it into a full digital currency control. So there's no stopping it, which we're not far away from doing. And the disaster being an international collaborative conspiracy and attack, a satanic attack against its own people by international governments, and then blaming it wrongly on another faith group. And this was such a problem that the Harriet Harman had to do an interview, or she did an interview about this affiliation with the paedophile information exchange, and it's, go and look at it on YouTube. I mean, it's quite clear. There's no denial in the affiliation there. Now, as things have progressed for me over the last few months, I've found out that my wife's family are massively implicated in all of this, without me even knowing, of course. And one of their family members, and I'm going to expose people. Her name is Lynn Proctor. Okay, Lisa's auntie Lynn Proctor is friends with Harriet Harman. In fact, they tried to get me to give an article via Lynn to give to Harriet Harman before I knew all of this. Okay, and Harriet Harman is still a politician despite this affiliation to the paedophile information exchange. Okay, so reading on, it says Daily Mail and other media outlets. To the Daily Mail and other media outlets, Pi's affiliation with the NCCL and its presence at the organisation's annual general meeting is incomprehensible and is enough to condemn the NCCL and its members. If we accept this framework, no further analysis is required, but of course it is highly problematic to identify and criticise the relationship without considering the history of the two organisations. Now, all mainstream media is linked to this international government fraud, okay? Every single company I've looked at. Now, back into the Pi Cubed company, this director on the left, Michael Sherry, connects to Ingenious Film Partners LLP. This is an incredibly important company in all of this, as we're going to look at in a moment. And every angle that I've come in from pretty much links to this company very quickly. And remember, there's over 5 million registered companies. And this makes the connection to Hollywood via in this Ingenious company, because when you research Ingenious, it links to Hollywood. Okay, now this is also featured on one of my best friends' wife research, and I had, in the early stages of my inquiries, employed the company she was part of, Emma Ailing is her name, to try and gain and acquire the genuine, authentic documents, bank documents, for the company I was part of, called Export Manor Freehold Limited. Little did I know that Emma was linked via another company to Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP. And in fact, she blocked me on WhatsApp, it appears, from the evidence, the same day that that company dissolved. And this is why that is so important, that company. Here's the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. And it was incorporated in 2009. And here's the name, previous names for that company. The bottom one, you can see 2009, it was called the Foundation of Prince William and Prince Harry. It changed its name in July 2012, a few days after the God particle was created or found by CERN, the Hadron Collider. CERN Limited, via Company's House, goes back to Export Manor Freehold Limited very, very quickly. I've already shown that research. CERN has 3 6s, 666 twisted round into its emblem. It also apparently has the God of Destruction outside of its building. I can't remember the name of the god. It changed its name again then, you can see, to the Royal Foundation of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and Prince Harry. And then changed its name again then, in 2019, September 2019, which is what, 3 months? 3 months before the outbreak, okay, in Wuhan, which was in December 2019. They then changed the name again as I'm exposing the fraud, and when I'm really starting to make inquiries and realise what's starting to go on, November 2022, as I'm exposing the fraud. And in fact, that's a month, I believe, before, around the time that I made the first report to the authorities. Now, on the incorporation document for the company, you have Bates, Wells and Braithwaite, and we're going to come to that in a minute. So further down on the incorporation document, because we've just been mentioning it, and these are the only ones, okay, this list here on the left, so it's not like there's loads. You have Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP. Further up on here, you also have Lloyd's Banking Group. Now, I acquired forged Lloyd's bank documents, okay, through Export Manor Freehold Limited. The complaint has never been finalised with Lloyd's Bank. That was 2 years ago almost now. Above that, you can see Durham Companies. This is where the Archbishop of Canterbury worked previously, okay? You've also got Bank of Scotland, which features throughout the fraud. And then on the top there, you've got HSBC, again, part of the fraud. All banks are involved in the fraud, okay? Fraudulent criminal companies, defrauding everybody, allowing a system of never-ending money through insurances and through the crimes they're committing against us, even though you'll see later they're linked to the production of money itself. It's satanic. It's satanic to cause suffering to humanity. And you can see the Queen's 80th Birthday Trust and the Children's Garden Party Limited. Now, when I first was doing the research in relation to this document and putting into the Rishi Sunak document, I got to pretty much this point, went out with my family, and they said, Gary, have you heard about the abuse by monks on the islands off the coast of Wales? And I hadn't. And I looked, and 3 days earlier there was an article, and it linked to monks abusing children off the coast of Wales, which is where Companies House is based. Loads and loads of reports of it. Okay, when you go into this Monks Investment Trust public limited company on this document, it links to JP Morgan. So I didn't know that at the time. So I then went in and researched this, found the link to JP Morgan, which means it links to the Flemings. Now, here's the document of that, which is the Rishi Sunak. Oh no, this was on the Santander document because it linked in from Santander Bank as well. And the portrait that you see here was the King's portrait released on the 14th of May 2024. Okay, the same day that I publicised the threat of directed energy through the communication systems, the same day, and they released this portrait. And that threat linked immediately to the royal family company that we've just seen, the Princess of Wales Foundation. And that portrait becomes relevant later. But within the portrait, down over here now, it appears that there is an inverted image, horned image there of a face with the horns, and that appears to be the Baphomet. And the Baphomet we're going to have a look at a little bit later. And you can see the Star of David on his forehead there. That Star of David relates into the cube of Satan as well. And we're going to show that a bit later. Now, prior to the release of that portrait, which was, remember, on July the 14th, 2024, I received this email into my inbox. And you can see my inbox there. My email address, GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. And it's 22nd of June 2024. And it says, I've obviously protected the person. So the heading is on behalf of the Princess of Wales. It says, hi, please don't give my name out on air. I have attached written proof of my clearance, but it's only for you, so you know I'm not a crackhead. I am not seeking attention and would appreciate my name never being mentioned on air. Please note, my clearance was granted to me by the High Command of the SAS, in brackets, which means the royal family. And you cannot get any higher clearance. I can go and have been airside and could enter a war room with the Prime Minister if requested without any clearance having to be raised, because it can't be raised. It is as high as you can get. Now, here is the purpose of my email: to recite to you what I recite to them all, and having been reciting since 2019, again the year of the outbreak. In 1994, I was given a mission that about now, regardless of circumstances, I shall come out shouting 4 words on behalf of Diana, Princess of Wales: King Charles is Satan. The mission was authorised by Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. That's it, just those 4 words and who they are from. Now, you notice they were given this supposedly, okay, in 1994, according to this email. Now, obviously, you can't verify this information, but you can verify everything on the Companies House records I'm showing you, which then supports all of this other evidence that I'm showing you, see? Hi, Gary. So I just sent an email. Can't remember what it said. And the response was, hi, Gary. I think I asked for more information. It said, hi, Gary. Yes, I was briefed that if asked, then I can tell you anything that was said in the briefing, but absolutely nothing else. So the briefing was as follows. This won't be verbatim, but I shall try to include all of the relevant detail and caveats of the mission. You are to wait 25 years from when you pass out. In brackets, I was to go on my passing out 2 weeks for the TA in 1 week's time. So that there will be no possibility of you being a serving member of the military whilst doing this, because this mission cannot be carried out by a serving soldier and then come out shouting 4 words on behalf of Diana, Princess of Wales, as follows: King Charles is Satan, in brackets, given as Prince Charles at the time, but as you will be aware, you always have to address them by their present title, so it updates. You are neither to seek nor accept any form of gratitude, payment, or reward of any kind in the doing of the mission, nor on the back of the name of the princess ever. You are neither to seek nor accept any form of personal publicity or increase in personal fame. My eyes are definitely getting worse. It's the radiation. In the doing of the mission or on the back of the name of the princess ever. You are not to disgrace the princess in any way in the doing of the mission. No silly stunts to attract attention, no signs trailing behind airplanes or anything like that. You are to remember who you are working for and that it is not to be taken as a stunt or a joke. You are not to beg anyone for belief, just those 4 words and who they are from, unless questioned further, and then you can tell them anything that was said in the briefing, but nothing else. It is important not to appear to be asking people to believe anything you say because of the dignity of who is involved. You are to be the poor voice in the crowd. A rich man is not required for this, and so you will be poor at the time that you carry out the mission. The mission is completed when at least as many people in the world have heard of this as would hear any other story relating to the princess. That is to say, almost everyone. And then last part of the email. You are never to be to add any personal comment or opinion, nor add anything what has been said. You must stick to those 4 words and who they are from and nothing else unless asked, and then only to what has been said in the briefing. There are 2 comments to add from Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as follows. Number 1, the Queen and the Princess are friends and always will be. You are always to remember that and not believe anything you may see to the contrary on the news, in the papers or anywhere else. The Queen neither makes nor takes friendships lightly. Never forget that. Number 2, no one puts a hit out on a royal princess and gets away with it. No one. End briefing. I then sent a message saying, "Hi, thank you for your response. I would like to consider publicising a redacted version of your email as it ties in with so much of my evidence. Please can you provide any other confirmation of your career position in aviation and any other information to support that Princess Diana was murdered by Charles. Thank you very much." And then he responded, "Lol, I'm not trying to impress you, mate. The certificate is plenty and is worth the paper it's written on. It doesn't need a CV attaching. Also, I made no such accusations, and I have made clear this is nothing to do with me. I'm just the mouthpiece. I'm not to make accusations, have any opinions or anything else. It's just what it is, raw. 4 words on behalf of Diana, Princess of Wales, authorised by Her Majesty Queen II. And because you asked the full version of the briefing, but I repeat, I am not to alter 1 word." And then I just responded, he put, "PS, all said and done, I've sent the full version because you asked. I have nothing further to do with it. I've done my part, if you see what I mean. So it's actually up to you what you do or say now. Just please don't misquote me because I didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. I'm just the mouthpiece." So please come back for part 2 to see the rest of the important evidence. Thank you.